It is indeed an honor to be here this morning to celebrate Dr. Daly, to have a conversation about her contributions. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about Black Panther and vibranium and Dr. Daly. So let me tell you a quick story. So back in February of 2018, when the first Black Panther film was released, I can tell you I was not a fan of Marvel Comics. I did not read comic books, and I wasn't planning to see this film. But my little sister, Demetria, who actually lives here in New York, encouraged me to go see it. She says, "You gotta see this film." So I go to the movies with two of my younger cousins in February of 2018, and I'm enjoying the film. Love that Michael B. Jordan was in it, of course. Yeah, I know. But it occurred to me that this fictional African nation was thriving on the production and use of an element called vibranium. And because I can't shut off my chemistry brain, I kept asking myself as I watched this film, if this element were real, where would it be in a periodic table? And I couldn't stop thinking about that question as I watched this film. So I go home that night, I was so excited. I started writing out what I thought this paper should look like. And I sent an email to my colleague, Professor Appleby, and I said, "Hey, have you seen this film? Can you ask this as a bonus question on your next general chemistry exam?" And she did, and we found out immediately who the Marvel comic fans were in the department, used some of their responses for this paper, and the rest is history. So that's kind of how we got involved in this superhero science research. And once the paper was published, I shared it on social media. And it actually got a lot of attention, to my surprise. I'm not going to go over all of these responses, but this one is probably my favorite. "Forget Infinity War. This is the best crossover ever," which I loved. I said, okay, this is really resonating with a lot of people. This response here really gets to the heart of what we were doing, really taking a holistic approach and thinking about the properties of the elements. But one of the key points that we make in this paper is that Black Panther provides a national provides an opportunity to have a national conversation about the important contributions of women and people of color in the STEM fields. That character Shuri resonated with a lot of young people, and is an example of what happens when everyone gets an opportunity at the lab bench or at the table. And so Dr. Daly, right, is a classic example of that. You could say she was the Shuri of her day, if you like. And then it's always really cool when your PhD advisor gives you a shout out on Twitter and you haven't been in a lab breaking glassware. I broke a lot of glassware as a graduate student, but I finished. So that was pretty cool. And so, in thinking about the impact of that work, so it's had a lot of article views and social media posts and those kinds of things. But I think what's really important is that it's being cited by other researchers, really showing, I think, the need of this kind of scholarship and, really leveraging the popularity of the film to get students to think seriously about the periodic table and chemistry concepts. And so we were interviewed by a journalist from Scholastic Science World. So some of the students in the room may be familiar with this particular magazine. It's read by over 1 million kids all over the country and the world. And so basically what they did is they created a lesson plan aligned with the next generation science standards for students to classify vibranium. So what we ended up doing was using these materials to actually for workshops for middle school and high school students. And so basically the students will work in teams, they'll complete the worksheet, and then they'll work in teams and prepare for create a poster for a gallery walk. And so we have these posters all over the classrooms, and these students are presenting where they think this fictional element should be. And what's really wonderful about this, I love doing these types of activities, is because you always have a lot of students who have artistic ability. They love to sketch and draw. So you bring it in chemistry and art at the same time. And so one of the things that I love about this, because there is a huge difference between middle school students and high school students. Middle school students are only concerned with how pretty the poster looks, right? But high school students, they want to put all their knowledge on the poster and demonstrate it. So again, it's just a way to engage. And so I love telling stories. And so I firmly believe that the best stories have more than one protagonist. And these protagonists don't have to be human. They can be these fictional elements like vibranium. And so basically, we're using it really as a tool for engagement. And so in 2020, I had the opportunity to publish a book chapter, the ACS Symposium series, focused on teaching in inorganic chemistry. And so this is a 2-volume set. So I was just so honored that I was included in this. And so basically my chapter, I dedicated it to the late Chadwick Boseman for his amazing portrayal of T'Challa in Black Panther. But it was so basically I summarized all the different ways that we've used the film to engage students. And one of the things that actually happened when the paper was originally published, a colleague had posted on social media that wouldn't it be cool if vibranium had electrons in a 5G subshell, right? So thinking beyond the 7th period of the periodic table. And so, yes, I was inspired again by going to see the new film, Wakanda Forever, which I also loved. And this led to a new paper that was published this time in the Chemical Educator just last month. And so basically we're it really focuses on three key areas. So engaging students, engaging educators, but also the new film, I think, is a great example of learning from failure, right? Learning from these failed experiments. And so, which all students, every scientist, every chemist has to be able to do, because the majority of your experiments that you do are not going to work, but some of them will, right? And that's when you get you get that motivation to keep going. Again, leading back to Dr. Daly, her contributions, and to society. So we're really excited about this one. And so in January of 2021, I had the opportunity to publish an op-ed in Nature Chemistry entitled The Importance of Storytelling in Chemical Education. And in this op-ed, I actually talk about Dr. Daly, Dr. Percy Julia, who's another hero of mine, and also Alice Augusta Ball, another important chemist in history. And so basically, how you basically align these stories with the content that you're teaching in the classroom. And Dr. Linda Mead Tolan, so she's already given a nice historical background about Dr. Daly and her scientific contributions. The thing is, it's wonderful to be the first to achieve something, right? That's a great historical fact, but she matters because of her scientific contributions. And Dr. Linda Mead Tolan had talked about some of those. One of the things that I think is really important, really, for everyone is thinking about how, it's common knowledge now, you've got too much cholesterol that could lead to high blood pressure and heart disease and those kinds of things. She did the research that showed that strong correlation, right? That's why she's important. That's why she's significant. So I'm serving as one of the editors for AAAS's Disruptor blog, focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is obviously an important concept and ideas for leading to this wonderful symposium today, where I talk about storytelling and using it, how do you leverage it to increase representation, right, in these fields. So I had, again, so I learned about Dr. Daly when I was, when I actually finished my doctorate from Ohio State years ago. And I've continued and just wanted to find ways to celebrate her story. And I did that with a recent column as well, celebrating her life, Alice Augusta Ball, also Dr. Jewel Plummer Cobb as well, who's a cancer biologist. And so for the first time, I had the opportunity to serve as editor of a new ACS Symposium book. And what this is, and I'm so thankful to all of the contributing authors, because this is more than just a history book. We offered lesson plans at the end of each chapter that educators can use right in the classroom. And I do talk about Dr. Daly in particular in the chapter that I authored about Dr. Betty Washington Green, who actually earned her PhD in chemistry from Wayne State University in 1965. So she's number 5 on the list, Dr. Dr. Green. But what I found really fascinating about Dr. Green is that her daughter, Dr. Willetta Green Johnson, earned her PhD in physics from University of Chicago in 1988. And it's pretty rare. I don't know how common it is for a mother and a daughter to both earn a PhD in a STEM discipline, let alone two women of color. And so here we stand at Columbia University, which has honored Dr. Marie Maynard Daly. This is a post from, I think, 2020 during Black History Month, honoring Dr. Daly's wonderful contributions. And there's a recent articles as well. I had the opportunity to be interviewed for this particular piece as well. And also Rockefeller University. I haven't actually seen this installation, but I really do want to see it. So they have these new exhibitions, including Dr. Daly highlighted in a hospital hallway. And so previously, I had this opportunity to collaborate with Dr. Sean Hitchcock, who's an organic chemistry professor at Illinois State University. And what we did, we collaborated on a paper where we developed a bonus chemistry assignment for students where they had to evaluate one of the chemical structures of a compound being evaluated for treating the coronavirus. And what's very clear is this pandemic, you know, we're getting through this. It's showing in real time why chemistry matters, why STEM matters, right? And this is why we celebrate Dr. Daly, because she demonstrates, you know, her contributions to why science matters, why chemistry matters, and how it can impact society. And so just some final thoughts. What I do want to share is that Dr. Daly is indeed an inspiration. I think storytelling is not only an effective strategy for engaging students in a classroom, but also public engagement, right, with stories. And I am convinced that superhero films are important and they do matter. There is some academic value to these superhero films, even though a lot of the science in it is wrong or a little altered, but it still can serve a purpose for engaging students. So with that, I'll close and thank you so very much for this opportunity.